listening to the Straight to Video podcast with Rob Lane.
Hey, what is going on? Hope everyone out there is doing great. A massive thank you for choosing to listen to my Straight to Video podcast. Hard to believe, but this show is not only creeping up to 300 episodes, but pretty soon it's going to be 4 years old. This dawned on me when I checked in with today's guest, singer-songwriter and guitarist Kurt Frohlich. Someone I've known for around 17 years now, but upon looking back, it was close to 4 years ago that he was a guest on an early episode of the podcast. Seeing as Kurt has not one but two new records out this year, the first being the new album, The Dark Horse, from Riley's LA Guns, who Kurt is the lead singer, and also his brand new solo album, 1977, which is released digitally today, June the 7th, we felt it was the perfect time to check back in and see what's been happening. We of course chat about the sad loss of legendary drummer and Kurt's bandmate Steve Riley and the legacy he's left, and how proud he was of everything that Riley's LA Guns had achieved, as well as diving into the songs on Kurt's brand new album, which I urge you all to check out as there's some great tunes on there and something for everyone. And of course, much like last time Kurt was on the show, we chat all things horror and video stores, so I hope you have a good time listening to that. This Straight to Video podcast is proudly presented to you in association with Affinity Photo, an incredible piece of photo editing software which I use all the time for graphic design. It's used to create the podcast episode art where you see each week, and it's an extremely affordable alternative to other programs on the market, so please, if you can, check them out at affinity.serif.com. Okay, the new album from Kurt Frohlich, titled 1977, is out now digitally wherever you listen to your music, with a physical release planned for later in the year. And the second album from Riley's LA Guns, The Dark Horse, is also available to stream, with physical copies scheduled to land August the 16th. Everything you need to know can be found at Kurt's brand new website, kurtfrohlich.net, with all his music projects, videos, and lots of cool stuff. But for now, please enjoy my straight to video chat with Kurt Frohlich.
How are you, man?
I'm good. Good to see you. So how's things in sunny Florida?
Yeah, really good. Starting to get really hot now, so it's 4 months of misery.
Don't complain, mate.
I lived in Vegas, so you pick your poison, you know?
Sweet. So what's this weekend got in store?
I'm going to a arena football game. Never been to one, so that should be interesting. And I play 5 days a week at Disney, British Rock, which you're very familiar with.
Absolutely, man. Is that going good? Is it like just constant?
They just renew us every year. This is our 3rd year, so it's great. Yeah.
Do you have to rehearse at all these days?
We don't. We haven't been in a rehearsal studio, and including Riley's LA Guns, we've never were in a rehearsal studio. So I'm used to everyone doing their homework. All the guys I work with.
Exactly, man.
Nobody wants to look like an asshole on stage, right? So they do their homework.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I'm pleased we get to chat and hook up again. You know, it's only been a couple of years since we saw you in Florida, but it's been 4 years since we did that last podcast together.
Oh, wow. 4 years. That was like COVID time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was either June or July 2020. So how insane is that?
That's cool. Wow. Yeah, man. A lot of people said they really enjoyed it because a lot of movie nerds and horror nerds like you and I enjoyed it. People I talk to, so that's cool.
First up, how's the family? Kirsten, it's Jade, isn't it, your daughter?
Jade is 13. She's full on teenager now, so.
Teenager, man. Wow.
Yeah, she's doing really well. School ends this week here in Florida, so it'll be nice to get to sleep in a little bit. And yeah, Kirsten is an agent, entertainment agent, so she books a lot of stuff and doing good.
Do they come out to gigs, or are they sick of seeing you nowadays?
They sometimes come out. When I did fly-out shows with Riley's LA Guns, I would take both of them and make a trip of it and see different parts of the country. I want Jade to kind of see different parts of the country. And yeah, so that's a good way to get to do it.
I had a quick listen back to the last podcast, and I think you'd introduced her to Creature from the Black Lagoon, and that was about the only horror movie you'd shown her. Any more got on her radar since, do you know?
She always asks me, it's funny, her friends must talk in school, like, what's the scariest movie you've ever seen? She'll ask me, like, have you seen this movie? Because all her friends are watching stuff they should not be watching. And I'm like, yep, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen that one. So I always tell her The Exorcist. She's like, really? I go, don't watch it. do not watch it until you're at least 18 because, you know, that movie can ruin your childhood.
You'd come away with like questions like, what was they saying? What was that all about?
I remember watching Nightmare on Elm Street when I was really young. I remember lying in bed multiple nights terrified. I'm like, I don't want to do that to her.
Do you realize it's 40 years since the first Nightmare on Elm Street?
40 years.
40th anniversary this year.
I see Freddie in your background there with his hat on.
Oh, yeah. There's all sorts. I used to be like a big autograph collector until they started to get ridiculous prices.
I just went to Spooky Empire here. They have it twice a year here in Orlando, and Robert Englund was there.
How was the line for him? Was it just insane?
It was crazy. But another cool story about that, going to Spooky Empire, I was doing my gig at Disney, and I get off stage, and this guy goes, sounds killer, man. Great. And I look at him, and I'm like, and I point at him, I go, I know you. I go, I'm Kurt. He goes, I'm Greg. I go, I know who you are. I was Greg Nicotero.
Oh, man.
You and I who know who he is. And he could tell I was like super fanning out because, you know, I go, what do you do in town? He goes, oh, I'm a guest at Spooky Empire. And he goes, you want to be my guest? I'm like, sure. I just met you like 30 seconds ago. He started going on his phone, showing me pictures of him and Tom Savini and stuff.
Dude.
And he goes, oh, here's my number. And he gives me his number. And I'm like, what a cool guy, man.
Oh, fantastic. How was the whole event? Was it fun?
Yeah, you'd love it. It's in like convention centers. So, and one whole ballroom, which is huge, is all merchandise, personal merchandise booths. So, you know, there'd be over 100. And then another whole is all tattoo artists. So they have like over 100 tattoo artists.
Nuts, man.
So much cool stuff. You'd love it. It's really fun.
How nuts is the merch now? Can you imagine that if we were kids and you could get all that back then? It was like unheard of.
We just cleaned out some of our stuff, and now it's like, I can't get any more t-shirts and stuff. I just opened this guy here. Hold on. This guy was in the box for like forever. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to open Mike Myers so I can put them on my shelf because I can't keep the boxes of stuff. Some of the stuff I'm like, I got to sell it.
We were speaking about Nightmare on Elm Street last time, and how much it terrified me as well. And it's weird. It's like, I'm wondering what Jade would make of it now. And because we saw a screening of it on Halloween a couple of years ago, it was like sold out. I'm like one of the oldest people at these screenings now, like loads of young people. And some of them was laughing, and I like took real offense at it. I'm like, I know some of the acting's a little bit hammy maybe, but I'm like, this ain't funny.
I was going to say they see it as a little campy from when we, you know, obviously the later ones are campy, obviously, but the first one is like, it was scary. Whereas now I don't know if it's because of the computer effects now and everything, make everything so, I don't know, but yeah. I get what you mean. People are like, they don't think it's as terrifying as we did when we were.
I was speaking with a friend of mine, and he was like saying, what are the most scary scenes? And I'm like, the alleyway scene where his arms reach out. And
yes.
I think it's scary because it looks a bit shit. That almost adds to the creepy factor of it. It's just a little bit off kilter. It's not smooth or anything like that. It's just weird.
And it's all practical effects. There's no CG in it.
And your brain I think that always helps with your brain. Your brain accepts that it's there on screen rather than, I can see that's been computer generated. Mm-hmm. So let's get into what you've been up to. We obviously had the sad news at the end of last year with the passing of your bandmate, Steve Riley, who we bandmates with in Riley's LA Guns. I mean, I can't imagine what that's like. But you've been honouring him in style and went ahead with the release of the new album, The Dark Horse, which came out digitally on Steve's birthday. But it's coming out as a physical release in August, which I think is a wonderful tribute and way of honouring him. What particular memories come up now when you think of Steve, and how would you like him to be remembered?
Steve was really proud of what we were doing. That's why I think it's so great that the album's finally coming out in hard copy and vinyl and CD. And Steve never said anything bad about anyone. And that's kind of how, that's how I remember him. He was just a good-hearted guy. Before I joined the band, I called some guys that are, in our industry, and everyone was like, because I didn't know him at all. And I was skeptical to join the band anyway, because I don't sing like Phil Lewis and I want to do my own thing. And Steve talked me into it along with my wife saying, you should just do it. And I said, okay, great. And I'm glad I did because I learned from Steve. He's a veteran, toured around the world multiple times. He did albums with huge people. He did it all.
Was he a storyteller, or was he pretty quiet until you kind of unlocked that and got talking to him about it?
He was pretty quiet. Sometimes he would, we'd be driving home we recorded 2 albums, all of us there together, which was, I think that was the biggest memories I'll take, is us busting our butts in the studio.
Old school.
Yeah. Learning from each other, writing with each other, changing stuff last minute, trying different stuff. And it was like, everyone was really great about it. And Steve was always like, yeah, who has ideas? You know what I mean? But yeah, as far as stories go, he'd drop me back at the hotel because he lived in Hollywood there. And he'd be like, oh yeah, when I was playing with Wasp, they asked me if I wanted to do the gig. And I said, yes. He goes, I didn't know how to play double kick at all. Not at all. So I just woodshedded and went back and just practice and practice and practice. That's kind of the outlook he told me to take. Like, just do it. Figure it out.
Yeah, just give it a shot. Yeah.
Figure it out. And like, look at Wasp, its signature drums, Steve Riley. Come on.
Just drop some gold every now and again. Quiet dude, but then just drop some gold.
Yeah. He was the kind of guy after the gig, he'd be like, after do signings or whatever, he's like, all right, he's got off to his hotel.
Like you said there, it was easy to see with Riley's LA Guns how it was presented from day one. Not just Steve, but all of you were obviously like very proud and committed to the project. Has there been any talk of anything planned around the album's physical release to maybe pay tribute to him, or is that just a long way off right now?
Even as far as shows, we're just taking it day by day. And if anything comes in, we have the family's blessing and Mary, his wife. So, never say never. But as far as a tribute show, I haven't heard anything about that yet. But the last show we did out Mohegan Sun here with Stephen Piercy and Vixen and Quiet Riot, we did a little video thing before we started for Steve. And backstage, I think somebody videoed it. We all had a whiskey. We used to sometimes have a little shot of whiskey together before we went on. So we did that. Yeah, it was tough, man, because, he was our leader. He was our fearless leader. And he was a friend. He was a good friend. He'd like send you like Christmas gifts, him and his wife, for the kids and the wife. And I'm like, wow, that's what a guy, what a family.
Awesome, man. I love that. You too have a brand new record coming out, a solo album called 1977. You kindly sent it over and it's fucking great. One of the things I particularly like about it, no nonsense, 21 minutes, boom, get in, get the job done, press repeat. It's one of those albums. It's
just straight ahead, very 70s punk rock influence, no nonsense. I played for a short time with Marky Ramone and the Ramones. I learned a lot from him, and I fell in love more with the Ramones after playing with him, after diving into the catalog, learning all the material. We would do a set of over 30 songs. I think it was an hour show.
Yeah.
And it was like, can I get a drink of water after like, say the fourth song? He's like, no, this is where you get your drink of water. And otherwise we just go. It's just freight train. Just, you know what I mean?
How did you land that gig? Do you remember?
A friend of mine was singing with him and he said, I need a guitar player and a bass player. So I got my bass player at the time who he knew. He asked if we'd be interested. I said, that was the same thing. We learned all the material, 32 songs or something.
Learning Ramones songs is a weird experience.
It is.
I've done it before.
They're so similar that learning them, it's not like learning LA Guns songs where they're different tempos or different keys. It's like, man, it was not easy. You just have to listen to it over and over and over and over again. And then we rehearsed once.
Your stomach drops the first time you listen to that album and you're like, these all sound the same.
Yes. And we rehearsed with him once. He's like, you guys are good to go. Okay, go. I was like, okay, cool.
But when they click, it's a great feeling when they're logged in the brain and you've got them down. Like, I got this now.
Yeah.
I got this.
And it takes so much energy. I knew going in before. It's all downstrokes on the guitar.
That's a workout.
You need to warm up before you do that, because if you go on stage and not warm up doing that, you're not going to be able to keep up. And after like the second song, not from jumping around, just from standing there and putting out that energy, just drenched in sweat, because it takes so much energy. But you hear it in the music.
I love that. And I say it's all over the new record. I was going to say there's a lot of pop roots in there. The Ramones are a pop band at the end of the day as well.
Yeah. 50s influenced pop band.
Totally. For me, though, the second single, Another Heartbreak, without doubt my favorite, because I'm just a sucker for sugary melodies and big hooks. It has that late 70s, early 80s feel of the Cars and the band The Ravens. I don't know if you know The Ravens.
Oh, no.
They had a song on Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Raised on the Radio.
Oh, yeah, I know that song. Yeah, great pop song.
Yeah. In your song, the key change is present and correct. What's the story behind that song?
It was kind of influenced by I Wanna Be a Boyfriend, like those type of Joey Ramone's melancholy, sad love songs. That's kind of where it came from. And, when you're young, I thought back to my youth when you're like puppy love and, think you're falling in love with girls and then either they don't work out but that's kind of the story. It's just like, you just keep going back and they just keep screwing you around.
Are you playing everything on this record?
Yes, I played everything on the album, did all the backups, everything.
Who do you bounce ideas or feedback off, or do you like put it out there and get the feedback that way, or do you have someone who you can bounce it off?
I tracked everything myself, and then June, who mixed the two LA Guns albums, mixed this album. He just finished working on the Jerry Cantrell's album too. So he would send me a mix and be like, take a section out of something, and then kind of like a producer would make it better. But mostly it was just me.
Stuff like I Want to Live in Space could be an Ace Frehley solo tune. Sick in the Head has your Ramon style on it. But tell us about your cover of Fish Heads by Barnes and Barnes.
My daughter used to I would play that for the video for that on my phone and stuff. And I was like, that'd be fun to do like a punk rock version of Fish Heads. Because I grew up, Much Music was the music channel in Canada, and they would play that video. It had like a cult following. I did it, and Jade, my daughter, sang on that too, the backups, the Fish Heads intro and all that. That's her.
Oh, man. So it's not a total solo record then. There is a special guest on there.
Jade did some hand claps. There's hand claps all over the album. She helped me with all those too. But yeah, that's a fun song, man. I just gave it a little twist.
Speaking of the video, I was looking into it. I only just learned that it was directed and starred Bill Paxton from Aliens and Weird Science.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Unless I'm watching a different video, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it's campy. It's great.
Is there any plans for any videos for any of the songs, do you think?
I would love to shoot video for something. I'm waiting to see, what people attach to when the album comes out. The album comes out June 7th, so.
Yeah, you got to get some videos out. You play some cool stages, so get a cameraman there for sound check and just rattle one of the songs through the PA.
Totally. I'd love to do a video. Kind of a sleazy black and white city video.
Yeah. Or maybe do like a cover of Fish Heads in Disney or something. You might get some copyright strikes again, something like that, but that'd be fun. Your LA Guns bandmate, Kelly Nichols, did the artwork for the record too, I believe.
Yes. That's a big announcement too, because he's great. He does all the artwork for our LA Guns, first LA Guns record, the Riley's LA Guns record. And he's super talented, man.
Did you just send him some ideas or just give him free reign?
I sent him like 2 songs, I think, before they were mixed. And I'm going for a New York kind of punk rock street. And he got it. He totally got it.
It's all nicely wrapped up under the 1977 banner. Why that particular year?
I just kind of imagine New York in the late 70s and that kind of the sound and the vibe and CBGBs. And I watch a lot of documentaries like on the Dead Boys and of CBGBs. And when I was consciously writing these songs, I kind of imagined being in that time, in that city, so 1977 was, I don't know if that's kind of the same time frame that all of that was happening.
What was you doing in 1977? Was you all Star Wars back in Canada?
1977, probably close right when I got my first Kiss record.
Right.
And that's when I just fell in love with rock. The first self-titled album I got.
Do you remember the record store you got it from, or did somebody buy it you? Did you steal it from a friend?
My cousin bought it for me, and he lived at our house, and they would rehearse in our basement, his band, and they wore makeup and stuff. And I was like, introduced to like rock and roll, and he gave me that first Kiss album, and I had a Mickey Mouse record player where Mickey's finger was the needle. And I thought, this isn't cool, but I put my Kiss record on it.
What a combo. That's a combo. I'm picturing it now. That's awesome. That's like a pop culture combo right there.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then I wanted to take drum lessons, and I wanted to learn how to play Strutter. That was it. Teach me how to do that.
Had you heard Kiss before that needle went on that album?
Nope.
No.
I just saw the cover and was like, oh my God, these guys look so cool. A young kid. And then you put it on, you're like, the riffs and stuff. I just love the riffs. I remember Strutter was my favorite song because it was like that riff. Then I just fell in love with the guitar riff rock bands.
I always find it interesting. I mean, me and you, we love similar kind of bands, all like the 80s hard rock stuff. And every single one of those bands quote Kiss as being like a huge influence. But I don't know, to my ears, not many of those bands actually, let's say, ripped off Kiss. Kiss just had this classic sound to them. I don't know if you agree with that at all, but songs like Strutter and Deuce, and I don't recall like many songs from the 80s sounding in that vein. I don't know if that makes any kind of sense to you. Obviously, Kiss went down the hard rock route, almost copying those bands when they did like Asylum and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. I think the one thing that all those 80s bands got from Kiss was the theatrics and the spectacle. You and I both, that's part of rock and roll to me. People say, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm an entertainer. I'm not really a musician. I'm kind of a musician, but I'm an entertainer. Like that's Kiss. They don't go, I'm a virtuoso on the, it's like, yeah, I can play, but Rock and roll is entertainment. That's how I see it.
So 1977, do you remember going to see Star Wars? Was you even a Star Wars fan?
I remember going to see it.
Yeah?
I was born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and went and saw it. I remember standing in line. That's what I remember from it. I don't remember as much like being in the theater, but vividly remember standing in line. It had blown up. It was like a craze by then.
I'm a couple of years younger than you, but I don't know if I actually ever went to see it at the cinema. I just always remember Star Wars being there. Whether I just got like the storybook and gazed over it for so long, it just imprinted itself on my mind, and it was later on I actually saw it. I have no idea, but it's just part of everybody's DNA around our age, I think.
Yeah, try working at Disney. People are Star Wars insane.
Are you as burnt out on Star Wars now as I am, or probably even more now?
No, I'm trying to get my daughter into it so we can like just watch them all, like start from the beginning and just, but she's not into that yet.
Also in 1977, other the great music, Star Wars, we had Smokey and the Bandit, Close Encounters, Saturday Night Fever, and The Hills of Highs. Imagine all those films in 1 year. It's bonkers, man. It's crazy.
It's like when they take a year from rock and roll and they're like 1985. Holy crap. Look at all the amazing stuff that came out of that. I've been watching, I think it's MTV's year. They have like a year in review where they did like a review of all the hits they had in years. I've watched a bunch of them at work, just sitting in the dressing room like, look at this.
Come here, look at this.
This is gone. Other guys will be on their phones and I'm like, look at all the hits that came out in 1985 or 8, whatever. It's insane.
And pretty much a big percentage of the planet would know those off by heart as well.
Yes.
It's like, I couldn't tell you a number one record in maybe the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Something we mentioned in our last chat briefly, which I never expanded on. You did some professional skateboarding, I believe.
I was big into skateboarding. Before I picked up a guitar when I was 16. But before that, from age 10 to like 17, 18, I was big into skateboarding. And there was a place called Ramp Skateboarding Center in Edmonton. And I would go there every day after school. And I was just, skate ramps, street skate, everything. And I was so into it. And they asked me, would you be on our demo team? And they had a portable ramp and we would go travel to places and they'd set up like the football game in Edmonton. They'd set it up in the Coliseum. And then between plays, we would skate and stuff. And I was like the young kid that they would say, you can do these 3 or 4 tricks. I'd be like, yeah, they go, just keep doing those. Because the other guys are older and were like better than me. They're in their 20s and stuff. And I would get paid. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm getting paid to skateboard as a kid. Crazy.
What did your family think of that when you came home with a wad of cash?
My mom was always worried about me getting hurt. It was dangerous. It's so broken legs, arms, but knock wood, I never broke anything.
Was all your friends into it as well? Did you have like a skate gang or anything like that?
I had like my skate buddies that would, every weekend we'd go hit the town and go find the skate spots. It was fun, get on the bus and be like, I hear this guy has a ramp in like the northwest part of blah, blah, blah. And then we'd like search it out and then we'd go up and down. I heard it's on this street, and then you find it in the backyard and you go to the front yard and knock on the door and be like, can we skate your ramp? Like those days are gone, man.
Have you got a favorite skateboard movie? There's not many. I know there's Thrashing, Gleam in the Cube.
Well, The Bones Brigade was the video.
Okay.
That was, Powell Peralta put it out.
Right.
That was like my Bible when I was a kid, The Bones Brigade. And I did an event. Hold on, I have something right here I have to show you. We did an event for Vans when they put out the Kiss shoes.
Right.
All the 80s skater stars were there and they gave me some stuff.
Dude.
Tony Alva was there. He signed a deck for me. Christian Asoy was there.
Had you met any of those dudes before? Like growing up or anything?
No. So I got to meet all these guys and like hang out with them. And I became friends with the guy from Vans.
I love that.
And Christian Asoy was one of my idols when I was a kid. He was a badass rock and roll skater type guy, wine guy. He was there. So it was cool. Those guys were rock and roll too. They were rebels, man.
Nowadays it's all movie stars and, well, it's not movie stars and pop stars, it's just influencers and things like that. But we mentioned it when we last talked. It's like not just the actors in the horror films, it was the makeup artists, like we're saying, like Greg Nicotero and stuff like that. They were rock stars in different ways.
Yeah. They were badass. Christian Asoy was like dangerous, man.
When was the last time you got on a skateboard?
I bought my daughter a skateboard. She got into it. So we go out once in a while. We go up the street and there's a skate park by here we went to. And I was like, okay.
Let me show you how it's done.
I don't want to break anything. I can't be out of work for 6 months.
Oh, man. Did that introduce you to a lot of music in the skate culture?
Yeah. That really got me into punk rock stuff. back then in the 80s when I was big into skateboarding, like the Dead Kennedys, Agent Orange, like a lot of those California punk rock bands. I got into the hardcore stuff like that.
A lot more underground.
Yeah, the Descendants and DOA was big in Canada. SNFU was big in Edmonton. So I got into all of those and go to shows. And yeah, because that was part of the culture. The skateboard culture in the 80s was that punk rock music. And that's where I discovered at my skate park, they put on Master of Puppets just came out. And I'm like, who is this? And they were like, oh, it's Metallica Master of Puppets. I was like, oh my God. Then I went down that path.
Yeah. What was kind of in your record collection before that then? Once you hear that kind of music for the first time, it's like, you're going to go one way or the other. You're either going to be terrified by it or you're just going to be like, give me more of this.
Yeah. Before that, I was big time into the Dead Kennedys. I had Misfits albums, Iron Maiden. I got all the Iron Maiden you had to get on vinyl for the covers, But yeah, once I picked up the guitar, then I loved Steve Vai and Van Halen, and I just went off the rails on that.
Around that time, you could jump and change. There was so many different styles just being bombarded at you all the time. It's crazy. Like, holy shit, this is amazing. I want a piece of this.
That's what's cool. I liked glam rock stuff, 80s glam rock stuff like you love. And then I had like a Slayer album, or whatever. So it's like, you don't have to pick, I liked White Lion and I liked Slayer. Whereas people are like, you like that White Lion stuff? I'm like, yeah, it's melodic.
Freaking great,
guitar playing's great.
You seen how good looking this dude is?
I love that band.
Right. I want you to time travel
to
a Friday night in the late 80s or early 90s, and you're heading to the video store. I think you said it was Next Act in Edmonton, Alberta, was the name you remember.
Yeah, I think that's what it was called. The video store I went to where this was the only place you could get the real shit. Stuff that nobody's supposed to watch.
On your way there, what movie soundtrack do you have on the Walkman, and what 3 tapes are you going to rent for the weekend?
Movie soundtrack. Well, Trick or Treat's pretty badass. Love the movie, What other stuff was I listening to at that time? Probably The Cult Electric was one of my 80s. Like, just put that cassette in and let it run in your car. You can just keep going. You would flip sides and you just leave it in there because every song is great.
Did any movie soundtracks introduce you to a band? Do you remember? Like, who is this? I've never heard this before.
I think Return of the Living Dead, maybe. That soundtrack's kind of punk rockish. I remember pausing on the end of the credits, finding out who the bands were and stuff. I don't really remember, but I remember part of watching that movie was because the music was cool.
Yeah, that film still holds up so well.
Yeah.
I watch it all the time.
Yeah, I watched it recently too.
And it gets better.
Yeah, it holds up. My drummer in the British thing we watched it in the dressing room. And then I turned him on to part 3. Which he was like, that's good, but it's no part 1. I'm like, yeah, totally.
Part 2's pretty good as well.
Yeah.
It's almost very kid-friendly. I'm like, wow, this is like a zombie film for kids in a way.
Yeah.
Proper Fangoria fodder, like all young kids were buying the magazine at that time, and just seems perfectly aimed at them, I think. But what tapes are you going to rent for the weekend?
I used to go to a place and be like, they don't have this. Okay, let's find another place. And you'd call them and say, you open? Yeah. And you'd drive to the next place. This one place had 10 videos for $10.
Was this at the end of the VHS thing, or was that just a deal they had at the height of it?
This was how around the outside of the store, they were the new releases, which I didn't give a shit about anyway. I didn't want to watch Sleepless in Seattle or whatever. I wanted to find Rabid Grannies or something. It's And of course, so this 10 for 10 deal was only the old school stuff. So I would just hit the horror section. And I remember finding Maniac was one of them. That's Tom Savini did that. I loved all those stuff people would talk about that you couldn't find everywhere. Now it's pretty amazing. You can just think of any title of movie and you can watch it within 10 seconds. Back then, it was driving around town and finding movies like Maniac and Suspiria.
There's some films which I kind of saw and I was almost scared to rent them because it's what's in this box? I have no idea. And it got to the point sometimes the boxes would get a bit tatty and old. That kind of added to the mystique of them in a way.
Yes. And you would rent something by looking at, looking through hundreds of videos. You'd look at a cover and you'd be like, oh, what was that movie? Chud. I'm like, yeah, we got to get this. Look at this. Chud, Underground Dwellers. Yes. you know, you were a kid, so it's like, this cover looks cool. And, you know, me and my buddies would rent it.
Things like The Stuff used to scare me. I didn't see that for years after because the artwork was just too creepy. It's like, I like horror films, but that looks a little bit off to me.
I definitely remember renting stuff. It'd be like, we're not supposed to be watching this. It's going to be awesome. Don't tell your parents that I rented this with you because I will be grounded.
Was you allowed to just rent anything? You knew the right stores where they just rent you any movie?
Oh, yeah. Back then, I don't know if it was just in Canada, but rated R movies, when we clearly were not 18, they'd rent them to you. The only things they wouldn't rent to you, the stuff through, I called the saloon doors.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, it's a no-go area.
Yeah.
So have we got 3 tapes? What have we got? I don't know what we've picked now.
Oh, back then it would have been like Maniac, probably Return of the Living Dead, which I would rent multiple times. And what would be another good one? Chud was pretty good. Or Street Trash is another good one.
10 tapes for $10, so you can just grab whatever you want.
Some movies you would watch like half hour and be like, no, this is horrible. Moving on.
Did you collect horror films as well?
I did when I was on the road. I started on the road when I was 18 years old. I was out in a rock band playing, and you'd hit like these small towns that had shitty little gas stations, and they'd have a bin of like $1 a tape. I'd find some gems there.
Whatever happened to them? Did you just throw them away, do you think?
Man, I don't know. I think my parents probably threw them away. Along with my Kiss dolls, they threw away those.
No.
Yeah, my original 70s Kiss dolls ended up at the Salvation Army somewhere.
Oh, man. When did you find that? Did you go back home to pick them up one time?
I think I asked my mom, like, whatever happened to my Kiss dolls? She's like, oh, those went, I didn't know they were worth anything.
Oh, man. Kurt, thanks for chatting with me, mate. I'm excited for this new record to be coming out and people hearing it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. You know, like I said, it's just balls out, punk rock, pop, rock and roll record.
There's something for everybody on there, but yeah, it's just straight instant, like say, 20 minutes, hit repeat. You can just keep rolling it around. It's like, is this finished already? I want to hear it again.
Yeah, there's no 5-minute songs on there, that's for sure.
I'll let you go, but you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Rob. Always great. Keep in touch, man.
Big shout and thank you to Kurt Frohlich for joining me on today's Straight to Video podcast. Always great to hear from him and to see how well things are going, along with reaching back to all his fun horror movie memories. Be sure to listen to both the new album 1977 from Kurt and the new album The Dark Horse from Riley's LA Guns wherever you listen to your music, and look out for the physical releases of both later this year. All links and info can be found at kurtfrohlich.net. Over at our 80s video shop in Alfton, Derbyshire, things are really picking up speed and the shop seems to be getting busier by the week. If you want to step back in time and visit an old school video shop, not DVD, actual VHS tapes, then come and find us just 10 minutes from Junction 28 of the M1, where we've recreated what can only be described as a video shop museum. Lots of things happening, and all the info can be found on our social media pages at 80s Video Shop. And also, we'd love it if you took a minute or two to check out all the things on our Patreon page, patreon.com/80s Video Shop, because there's a great community building up there. So that's all for this week's podcast, but I'm going to be back next Friday for a brand new episode. So until then, make sure to always be kind, please rewind and unwind, and I'll speak to you all real soon.